2 days away. Kyrie Irving, the trade already happened there, but still plenty of stars who could be moving before deadline day. Now, our Adrian Wojnarowski with us now. And Woj, what player are you hearing could be on the move before Thursday?
Fred VanVleet in Toronto, their 28-year-old point guard. You know, teams are trying to pry any number of players out of Toronto. OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, but they believe that VanVleet is the one that Toronto is perhaps most likely to part with if they get the kind of return they would like. Both Los Angeles teams, the Clippers, the Lakers, plenty of others in this point guard market, young players, draft picks for the Raptors potentially. This is a player who could go into free agency this summer. He's got a player option on his deal. It's an interesting point guard market because if you can't get VanVleet, Mike Conley in Utah, there's interest in him. Again, both L.A. teams, Kyle Lowry in Miami, D'Angelo Russell, they have talked extension in Minnesota. They've also talked potential trades. That's going to be an interesting musical chairs this week, but I think Toronto will keep negotiating on VanVleet right up until, I think, that Thursday deadline.
He's averaging nearly 20 points per game this season. Going to be a busy few days for you. As always, we know, Woj, we appreciate it. Matt?
Like, you know better than anybody, you could go on a title run with the move that you make in the next day or so. So for you, which team do you think needs to be active come the trade deadline?
Well, I'll give you a team that has been pretty relevant in the Western Conference here for a few years, and we've barely talked about them all season, and that's the Phoenix Suns. You know, first of all, you've got this Jay Crowder business hanging over your head where he's just basically been home. He's probably expected to be moved by the deadline. But I look at this team, and I know Devin Booker's been out for a while, so you get Booker back, and now you make a move at the deadline to bring in some additional help and to shore up your depth. Phoenix is a team that is still very dangerous in the West, and it's a weird year in that conference because there are so many dangerous teams that are probably going to have to go on the road at the start of the playoffs, whether you're talking Phoenix, whether you're talking Dallas because of, basically a 500 team and they just added Kyrie. How dangerous is that going to be? The Lakers potentially going on the road with LeBron and AD. The Clippers have finally moved up to a 4 spot, but they're also out there looking. And then there's New Orleans waiting to get Zion back. So it's going to be a very difficult home series for any of those top seeds to have to play these teams. And I think Phoenix can get relevant really quickly again, getting Booker back and making a move at the deadline.
Yeah, Legs, this it's a traffic jam from 1 to 10 to 11 and 12. Dallas was the first to strike with their move to Kyrie, but this will be fun to watch, especially if there's wheeling and dealing on that side of the bracket. Tim Legg.
And it could happen tonight. LeBron is averaging 30 a game this season. The Lakers, they have back-to-back home games starting tonight with Oklahoma City. Now, 36-point games, it's something LeBron James does quite often. In fact, he's scored at least 36 points in 197 games throughout his career. That's the 4th most by any player in NBA history, trailing only names such as Wilt, Jordan, and Kobe.
It's Tuesday. You know what day it is. Leg day. Tim Legler with us now talking LeBron. Hey, Legs, LeBron is having an incredible season. He has mileage on those tires, yet he's still an elite scorer, even with the Lakers struggling. How impressive is it what you're seeing out of LeBron?
Listen, it defies biophysics, Matt. That's the bottom line. As a basketball player, you think about all the jumping, landing, cutting, changing directions. It just destroys your joints over time. So to see a guy at this age and put up what's going to end up being the highest scoring back-to-back seasons of his career at the end of his career, or we think is the end of his career, is really remarkable because you're not supposed to be able to do this physically regardless of how much money you put in investing into your body, like has been well documented with LeBron. It doesn't matter. There are certain things that you just can't protect over time. And you also add in the fact that, with 10 finals appearances, you're talking about a guy that added on 2 months to 10 of those years deep into the summer with very short recovery time before the next season. So I think really that's what it comes down to. Putting up these kind of numbers and playing this consistently at this age in this sport. It is unprecedented. And the scary part, he said the other day he wants to do this for a few more years, and I don't see any reason why he can't for at least 2 or 3 more seasons, and maybe beyond that, the way that he looks.
Legs, to be fair, would he be having this kind of scoring output if maybe he had a little bit more help on this roster?
No, he does what he has to do, and that's what actually makes this scoring record all the more remarkable, because he has always considered himself more of a facilitator than a scorer and not an aggressive shot taker. I mean, I think that's a little bit overstated because the guy has averaged 20 shots a game for 20 years. So when you take that many shots, you are trying to put up some points. But if you look at his career, he has always done what is needed of him on a particular night. That really defines greatness, doing what is required and being your greatest when it is required. And if that means on a certain night putting up big numbers to keep your team's head above water, or to win a pivotal playoff game, or going all the way back to to 2012 in the Eastern Conference playoffs against Boston, down 3-2, having lost the year before to Dallas in the finals. He goes up to Boston down 3-2 with a closeout game on the road. And who knows what that means if they lose that game. Maybe Miami never wins a title collected together down there. But instead, he puts up 45 points on a 19 for 26 shooting night. And I referenced that game because to me that sums up who LeBron is as a scorer. He does what is required on a given night. And when you add all of that up over 20 years and having a lot of availability and never having a career-altering major injury, now you get a guy that's able to sit atop the scoring record in the NBA.
All right, final question. Yes or no? Does he get the record tonight?
No. Gets 33, and then he saves it for Milwaukee on TNT on Thursday night.
He's a marketer. He knows what's going to sell. Him and Giannis. Tim, sit tight.
That's right.
Observer of the game, what does the record mean in terms of his legacy?
Well, it puts LeBron in the category of definitely being the most versatile player of this generation. Wilt Chamberlain is the only person to ever lead the league in scoring, rebounding, and assists. And the Big O had the triple-double record for so very long. But LeBron James, when you not only are breaking the all-time scoring record, but you're top 4 in assists of all time, he is the definition of positionless basketball. He embodies taking care of your body, being in shape, being a professional, showing up to work every night, and delivering consistently as a champion, as a leader, and as somebody that you now put in the conversation of greatest players of all time. So this is an amazing feat for LeBron. It's not going to happen tonight, though. He understands theater. And the great Michael Wilbon, I don't know if he asked him this, but he ain't breaking the record tonight. He gonna break the record Thursday when they play against the Bucks, when it's on TNT, and he know the stage is set. It's gonna be interesting to see if he gets around 25 or 30, if he starts to look to pass a little more versus looking to shoot. Don't bet for him to break the record tonight.
Yeah, that is interesting because they do have to win these games, right? So if that's what's required, then maybe. But you're right, maybe he does a little more shot creation. So few things in sports and this world live up to the hype. This is a player whose high school games were on television before that was a thing, and he has become everything that he was expected to be. How do you put this in perspective?
Yeah, look, LeBron obviously has been a polarizing figure throughout his career, but no matter how you feel about LeBron James, what you just said is so true. He's the most hyped player in the history of the league coming into the league, and he lived up to it. The pressure will crack most people coming in with those kind of expectations. He lived up to it. And for me, when you talk about him as a scorer, well, a few things have to happen. First, you have to have a long career where you're available just about every night. You don't have any career-altering major injuries, so he avoided that. And you got to be incredibly consistent. Now, the thing about LeBron, he'll always say, well, I'm a reluctant scorer. I always consider myself a facilitator first, and that might be true. But when you go back and look throughout his career, the one thing he was always able to do was turn it up whenever he needed to give his team an opportunity to win by being an elite-level scorer. And I think ultimately, after you talk about his finals accomplishments, because that will always be the first thing in my mind that comes up, 4 rings and 10 appearances. That's the first thing you're going to say about LeBron. This will be the next thing on the list, the all-time leading scorer in the history of the league. And by the way, Jalen made a great point. When he cracked the top 5 in assists, look at the scoring totals of those players. He more than doubled them up as a scorer while getting into the same company as a facilitator. Truly remarkable. For me, this is the second greatest player of all time, and I think he's the only guy that has a legitimate debate, if you want to, with MJ. But for me, it will always be MJ, but I think at least he's entered that conversation.
Absolutely astounding.